A mother's escape. Alina and her little boy are running from a husband who hurts them. All they want is to be safe. Then their old car breaks down deep in the woods. They find a strange little house hidden among the trees. A mysterious woman lives there, and she knows secrets about the man they're running from. Will she help them, or will danger follow them here too? Alina and Matteo will have to be careful. Their new life won't come easy. What happens next? Nobody knows yet. Before we start, tell me your beautiful name and where you're watching from, down in the comments. Alina gently stroked her son's hair. Don't cry, sweetheart, he's asleep. Please don't cry. Her little boy looked up at her, his eyes brimming with tears. Why do we live with him, Mommy? Let's go somewhere far away so he can never find us. But how would we survive out there? Nobody would hit us, nobody would scream at us. That means we'd finally be happy. Matteo sniffled quietly, and sorrow flooded Alina's chest. What was she doing? It was one thing for her to endure the beatings and the screaming, but what had her son ever done wrong? He didn't deserve parents like this. She looked at Matteo. Listen carefully. Pack your things fast and quiet. Only take what you truly can't leave behind, and wait for me. Matteo wiped his eyes quickly. Mommy, are we really leaving him? Are we running away? Alina slipped out of her son's room without a sound. The house was silent except for her husband's heavy snoring. She knew him well, he'd sleep straight through until the next afternoon, and by then they'd be far away, especially since tonight he was calm and satisfied. Victor was a monster. It was heartbreaking that Alina hadn't seen it sooner. If she'd paid closer attention, if she'd studied his behavior before Matteo was even born, maybe she would have known. But back then she was a young girl in love, blind to everything. When Matteo was born and Victor realized Alina wasn't going anywhere, his true colors came out more and more. He didn't drink often, maybe once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks, just a single day. But that one day was enough to cause pain that lasted far longer. When her husband drank, he turned into someone else entirely. Everything cruel and ugly buried inside him came pouring out. He invented stories about things Alina had supposedly done, and he'd teach her a lesson so severe her body would be covered in bruises for weeks. Later, as Matteo grew older and cried at the sight of his injured mother, his father started teaching him the same lessons. They lived in constant fear, knowing that even if they told someone, no one would believe them. To everyone else, Victor was a hardworking man who built his business from nothing, provided for his family, gave them clothes and food, and did it all with pride, even when times were hard, while Alina was seen as lazy, living off her husband's labor. Alina heard these same words from her husband every time he taught her, and she believed them because she knew him all too well. She crept quietly into his office, opened the safe using the code, and grabbed her papers and Matteo's. She thought for a moment, then took some cash too. After all, her husband had sold the apartment the government had given her, just to buy this house. She had no idea where they'd go. She had no friends left. Victor had made sure of that, insisting she couldn't see them anymore. She tried to pack only the essentials, but still ended up with 2 large bags. They wouldn't be able to move easily without being noticed. Then Alina smiled. She had a car. Yes, she barely used it, maybe once a year, and it was old, but it ran. Old was good. It would draw less attention. They just needed to stick to roads without cameras. The main highways had too many. Ready, my love? Matteo looked frightened. For a 6-year-old, his eyes seemed far too old. Mommy, I want to bring my teddy bear. I know he's big, but he's my friend. Okay, bring him. Let's go. Alina carried the bags, one with her things, one with Matteo's, to the door. She turned around and for a moment thought about striking a match and throwing it inside the house. She stopped, sighed, and walked away instead. As they climbed into the car, Matteo whispered nervously, Daddy's going to be so angry. Let him be angry. We'll be far away by then. This is my car. He can use his own. They pulled slowly out of the driveway, careful not to let the engine roar too loud. A little while later, Alina turned left. Mommy, where are we going? I don't know yet, sweetheart. We'll stop at a gas station, fill up the tank, and just keep driving. Then we'll start a new life. And Daddy won't find us. If he ever does, it won't be soon. By then you'll be big and strong enough to protect us. Matteo let out a slow breath and felt a little better. While Alina filled the tank, he made himself a little nest in the backseat, hugged his teddy bear tight, and drifted off to sleep. Alina had been driving for 4 hours straight. Mile after mile disappeared behind them. Victor wouldn't search this far. He'd find some other easy target soon enough. He was handsome, and he knew exactly how to charm people. Alina spotted a narrow dirt road curling into a beautiful stretch of forest and fields. Without a second thought, she turned onto it. There had to be small towns or villages nearby where they could rent a house or even just a room. Then she could look for work. Maybe out here, away from the city, the paperwork and the laws wouldn't be so strict. That would buy them time if Victor ever came looking. She kept turning again and again, covering their tracks, but she was starting to worry that not only would Victor never find them, they might not be able to find their own way back either. The road narrowed. Alina lost all sense of where they were. She tried to turn the car around, but there was nowhere to do it. The forest pressed in around them like a wall. Suddenly, the engine made a strange noise. The car rolled to a stop in a wide clearing, and the motor died completely. Sunlight spilled over the treetops as Alina turned the key again and again, but the car only coughed a few times and went silent for good. "Mommy, what happened?" Alina wanted to stay calm, but she couldn't hide it. She sighed. Matteo would wake up eventually anyway. There was no point pretending. "I think the car broke down." Matteo scrambled into the front seat, suddenly excited. "That's great, we can have a picnic in the woods. Mommy, do we have food?" Alina smiled. "Yes, we do." They ate bread and sausage and drank water. "Let's see where we are." They climbed a small hill in the middle of the clearing, and there it was, a house in the distance. "Mommy, look, a house like something out of a fairy tale." "Yes, sweetheart, just like a fairy tale." The house was still far off. What Alina had thought was just an open clearing turned out to be wide fields sloping down the hill. Beyond the fields, the forest began again, and there, all alone, stood the house. "All right, let's grab our things and head over. Maybe they can tell us who could fix the car." They were exhausted, even after several breaks to rest. The tall grass was damp and heavy, wrapping around their legs with every step. By midday, they finally reached the house, dirty and starving. A tall fence surrounded the property, but the gate stood wide open. "Why did you stop out there? You've worn the poor child out. Come in." Alina felt a chill of fear. A woman, or perhaps an elderly grandmother, it was hard to tell, stood in the shadows, wrapped in a black shawl that covered half her face. "Hello, Alina, come in, the boy looks exhausted." Matteo was so tired he wanted nothing but a bed and sleep. Inside, the house looked exactly as they'd imagined, old-fashioned, except for one strange, modern electric kettle. Alina wondered, where on earth does the electricity even come from out here? Rosalind quickly set the table. "Why did you two walk through the grass like that? There's a perfectly good path just to the left." "We didn't see it." "Of course you didn't." The woman removed her shawl, revealing that she was older, though not truly elderly. After they ate, Matteo leaned heavily against his mother. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" "My head hurts." Alina touched his forehead. "You're burning up." Rosalind sighed. "I'll make a healing tea. I have medicine. Don't give the boy anything harsh." 10 minutes later, Matteo sat up in bed sipping the tea. He already looked a little better. Alina could see it. Rosalind gently rested her hand on his forehead and murmured something under her breath. "Your son is carrying a lot of fear." "Yes. We've been very afraid for a long time. Could we stay here, just until I find someone to fix the car?" The woman studied Alina strangely, then turned her gaze back to Matteo. He seemed to be drifting off, eyes closed, but he kept stirring and murmuring. Rosalind placed her hand on his forehead and began humming a soft lullaby. Alina froze completely still. She had heard that exact melody only once before, and she would never forget it. Once, when her husband was deeply drunk, he told her about his mother. "She left me," he'd said, before spitting out something cruel. "She pretended to love me and used to sing me this song." He'd even hummed a few notes of it himself. Alina had never heard the tune before that night, but it burned itself into her memory forever, because right after Victor mentioned his mother, he called all women wicked and beat her harder than ever. Matteo finally fell asleep. The two women sat in silence. "Why aren't you moving? He'll be fine. When he wakes up, he won't even remember feeling sick." "Alina." "Yes. Do you have a son?" Rosalind's face turned grave. "I had one, but he's dead to me now. His name is Victor." The woman jumped up, glanced at Matteo, then back at Alina. "Good heavens, no wonder he reminded me of someone." She rose, staring at Alina with sudden anger. "Why did you come here?" "He took everything from me, my husband, my money, my life. What more do you want?" "We ran from him. We were just driving anywhere so he couldn't find us. But if we're a burden to you, we'll leave." The woman sank back down, exhausted. "I had hoped never to hear his name again. He's a monster. And yes, he was my adopted son. My husband and I took him in when we learned we couldn't have children of our own. Little Victor was sweet at first." Then he caused his father's death, an accident, they said, and it made him happy. He hurt me too. I cursed him and told him never to come near me again or he would die. And he believed me." She paused. "Let me explain something about myself. I help people with my hands, with herbs, with words, but I can also cause harm. Victor wanted me to do terrible things for him for money to follow his orders." Alina covered her face with her hands. Rosalind spoke softly. "Don't be afraid. He won't come looking for you. He's a coward. He only hurts the ones who can't fight back. If you'd struck him once with a frying pan, he never would have touched you again." Week passed. Mateo started calling Rosalind grandma and followed her everywhere, fascinated by everything she did and showed him. Alina took care of the house and the garden. Rosalind would often say, "Alina, rest. You're making me feel guilty doing all my work for me." Alina just laughed. "I like it." Rosalind mentioned that across the bridge there was a larger town. Once Alina was ready, she could enroll Mateo in school and start looking for work. One afternoon, a young man appeared in the yard. "Hey, Auntie. Adrian, you scoundrel, I've been waiting for you." "Well, Auntie, you sure know how to make a man's day. What do you need?" "You, Adrian, you know I can't manage everything on my own out here. I need you to take a look at a car. Alina's car is broken down." Adrian glanced at Alina, clearly surprised, seeming ready to ask who she was and where she'd come from, but instead he simply said, "Where's your car, ma'am?" Alina smiled shyly and looked away across the field. 2 days later, Adrian brought the car back, fixed and running. "Ah, these women." Alina glanced shyly at Adrian while Rosalind smiled knowingly. Mateo, as always, was thrilled. Within 2 days, Uncle Adrian had built him a kite, given him a bicycle, and promised to teach him how to fish. Sometimes people came to visit Rosalind, and to stay out of the way, Alina and Mateo would walk down to the river. Lately, Adrian had started joining them more and more often. Eventually, Alina asked, "How do you always know we're here?" He grew serious. "I feel it in my heart." Alina blushed and looked away. Adrian gently touched her hand and laughed. "Auntie Rosalind only takes visitors on certain days at certain hours." Alina laughed with him. Adrian fell quiet and without meeting her eyes said, "But I wasn't lying about the heart thing. If I didn't want to be around you, I wouldn't keep coming." They sat together in silence, watching Mateo play, both quietly aware that their lives were about to change forever. 6 months later, they were married. Alina's wedding gift was a stunning surprise, a deposit of money in her account, sent by her ex-husband. It turned out Rosalind had gone to see her son one final time, telling him that beyond the divorce, he owed Alina what she was rightfully due, and money for every bit of pain he'd caused her. Or else, she told him, he didn't want to find out what would happen next.